Yo, what is up, my people? Listen, I am so excited to launch this stream here with my good friend Chad Lefevre. I met him at Amber Vilhauer's Elevate Entrepreneur Summit, which I know as the Books in Business event because I've been to every single one. And I had this experience where it doesn't happen to me often because I listen to so many communicators. But I watched this guy get up there and completely mesmerize me. I mean, I was floored by his ability to articulate, by his groundedness, by his preparation, by his data, and doing it all being spiritually connected. And for me, I always pay attention to people who make me pause and pay attention, as I believe so should you. And that began this sort of organic conversation, this organic relationship that was really around helping entrepreneurs to access and step into their power to create, which is why I called this live stream The Power to Create with Darryll Stinson and Chad Lefevre. We speak different languages, but we're saying the same thing. And so I want to get right into this conversation just to let you experience all the juice that comes out when he and I collide like two asteroids. I'll read his official bio for the note takers and all the, A-type people who like that type of stuff. And then we'll just get right into it. So Chad has architected transformation businesses, strategies, and solution that affects areas of business operations, leadership development, cultural transformation, and team building, everything from branding and PR and communications, which he has been featured in Inc. His work has included serving companies such as Coca-Cola, Sony Music, Latin, Simwin, who I don't even know who that is, Sports Metaverse, United Way, who I also worked with and for, Shell, Hoffman, the Canfield Group, love them, Bell, Richard Blanco, and many more. He's an avid student, a researcher in the areas of neuropsychology, ontology, perception, meaning-making, choice-making, energetic, sexuality, and spirituality. Since 2019, he's been a Buddhist Tantra practitioner, which is a word. How do I say that word, that V word, bro? What's that? How do you say that?
Oh, yeah. Now you got to get me. I got to go and pull it up and look at it.
Your practitioner, Tantra.
Yeah.
Varjanyana.
Varjanyana, yeah.
Did I say it right?
You say it the way I say it. I don't know if it's right.
Let's go. Well, you know how to do the work, even if you don't know how to pronounce it.
It's a different language.
He's been a yogi since 2014, which you'll be able to hear as soon as he starts talking. He's also been a deep researcher of spiritual disciplines, including Christianity, Islam, Taoism, Confucianism, Hinduism, Zen Buddhism, and a few others. His areas of research and expertise supporting his work include game theory, complexity theory, change management, and systems thinking. Y'all show me some love in the chat or the replay or wherever you're watching this for my guy, Chad Lefevre. Chad.
Thank you, Darryll. Thank you. It's a pleasure. You had a little pause there for a second, so I was unsure. It was just, we had a little technical.
It's all good.
I'm excited to be here. I love when you and I get together and we kind of, have these conversations that are so rich, for where we are right now as a culture and as a society and what people are dealing with and how they can deal with that in a more powerful way. And I think the way that you framed our talk today around creating powerfully is exactly the way to frame it. So let's dig in. I'll let you lead and I'm here to support and dig in with you.
Love it. What's up, Judy? What's up, Jeff? What's up, Lisa? Thank you for joining us. And if you're watching this replay, make sure you hashtag replay. I want to start us off with just talking about what this wave that's coming. I've heard you articulate it so well about AI and how it's disrupting the industry and how it's creating this sort of vacuum, this opportunity for many people to step into entrepreneurship and their ability and power to create. So let's just start it off foundationally laying it there, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah, I think this is going to be different for a lot of people compared to what they normally hear. I mean, there's a ton of stuff out there about artificial intelligence and which we will touch on some of this, but artificial intelligence and its dislocation of the employee workforce, the white collar bloodbath, robotics affecting blue collar workers. There's a lot out there. I'm not going to spend too much time on that because it's sort of the isness of this moment. What I think is interesting, though, is to look at this moment through a slightly different lens. It's helpful to understand a little bit of history in terms of how we got here as a people. Okay, I'm talking about the human side of all of this, not just the obvious transactional side of whether I'm going to have a job and what that's even going to look like, or whether there's an entrepreneurial opportunity and growth curve, which I expect there to be, and we can talk a bit about that. But basically, since the Second World War, we have existed up until about 1995 firmly into what I'll call the employee-based economy. This was a grand bargain that was made within our society as a social contract, which basically was said, if you give up your human beingness and you abdicate all that makes you fully alive, fully thrive, fully connect to your essence as a creator, if you give that up and instead you agree to be a human doing as opposed to a human being, that is, you are rewarded and paid for what you do, and your identity is based on what you do, then the grand bargain is that we will, as a society, reward you with a sense of security and stability in terms of how you make your money. You'll be able to have, for many companies, not all, but many companies offer things like healthcare. And we're also going to give you access to a system of credit that allows you, in today's dollars at least, to, if you make $100,000 a year, it allows you to live as though you make $1 million a year. I mean, what a lot of people aren't really present to is that most people would not own a home. Most people would not be able to afford their car. Most people would certainly not be able to pay for their kids to go to college. Not that that even probably matters much anymore, given how things are changing, or if it is going to matter, it's going to look very different and it's yet to be created. But we're going to give you this system of credit as an additional cherry on top to the safety, security, predictability of being an employee working for a company, as long as you just basically agree to, abdicate your thriving, your happiness as a creator of your life, and just show up, punch a clock, do the job, you'll get paid, and we'll let you leverage how much you get paid so you can afford to live in terms of 10x of what you could actually pay for otherwise. So this is what was created as our society. We were all born into this. We all grew up. This was just normal life. And that existed till about 1995. In 1995, with the wider emergence of the internet, we started to see cracks in this model with what we would now refer to as the gig economy, consultants and contractors and people who are like, I can kind of play this game of working for companies, but still having my own business. This is sort of the self-employment movement that kind of started to emerge, which is very distinct from entrepreneurialism, which is a whole other conversation we can talk about. But roughly from 1995 till, these aren't hard and fast, delineations in time, but roughly till about now, 2023, 2024, 2025. So the gig economy, the consultant economy, and where we're moving, and what you and I have been talking a lot about, Darryll, is we're moving into a creator economy. And I don't mean creator economy in the way that we maybe typically think about it, which is what we've seen for the last 15 or so years with social media, where you have content creators. That's not what I'm referring to when I talk about a creator economy, although that could potentially slide into it to a certain degree. But when I talk about creator economy, I'm saying that we in 1945 were effectively encouraged to become consumers of life. Okay, and I don't just mean consumers of things, although that's the obvious thing we normally think about. We talk about the consumer price index. It's around the holiday period right now. People are talking what are consumers' buying habits, what are consumers interested in. In 1945, we ceased to be human beings and we became consumers. We ceased to become creators of our life and we became consumers of life. And our whole economic model is based on our ability to consume, but not just things, consumption of time, consumption of ideas, consumption of space, consumption of each other. We start to relate to life as though what matters is outside of us and not that which is within us. And to be a creator of life, you have to be deeply and profoundly connected to what is inside of you, who you are as a human being versus how you are operating as a human doing in a consumer-based model. And so why all this matters, this is sort of laying the groundwork, is because everything is about to change now. When I talk about the creator economy, I'm saying that the locus of focus is going to move from that which is outside of us to that which is inside of us. Here's a way to think about it. There's a lot of people talking about the artificial intelligence dislocation that it's going to create for people who are being let go from their jobs. For anyone, according to Pew Research, 90% of Americans are employees, 10% are self-employed or entrepreneurs. You listen to a lot of people out there like Peter Diamandis and others, they're talking about an entrepreneurial explosion that's going to happen. Why is this going to happen? Because as people lose their jobs because they're being displaced as a result of AI or robotics, you're not going to be able to just go to a headhunting firm and just find another job. I mean, they're just not going to be there. And they're not going to be there for at least 5 to 10 years. That doesn't mean there won't be jobs in the future. We just don't know what it'll look like yet because it hasn't been created. And so the mental health crisis that we are on the verge of is the one where human doings lose their identity for what they do and have never contemplated who they are as a human being. And that's this moment in time. The human doings which are 90% of our economy, and that's not a pejorative term. Remember, the grand bargain was just show up, do your job, be a human doing, consume life, and abdicate your responsibility to yourself as a creator, as a spiritual being. For those who are religious or spiritual, you go to Genesis and it says that God made man in his image. What is that image? That image is that of a creator. And in 1945, for economic safety and security reasons, we were encouraged to abdicate that identity as a creator and simply become a human doing, simply become a consumer of life, looking outside of ourselves for all the answers, looking outside of ourselves for everything that matters. And all of a sudden, it's going to come to a grinding halt right now because we're no longer rewarded for being a human doing because we don't need to do anything anymore, at least not in the way that we have been doing it. So we're going to have to step into our power as a creator. Most people don't know what that means. Most people don't know how to do that. And most importantly, in order to be a creator, you need to know who you are. If you don't know who you are, and you've never asked that question because you've just been a human doing, you're in for a rough ride.
To say the least. Can y'all see why I brought Chad on? It's just like, that's his intro.
Yeah. Yeah, we could go for a couple hours, I'm sure.
Oh, man. Y'all, feel free to let me know if you've got specifics on this. This is a very big conversation for a lot of people. One of the first things that's coming up initially is how much fear that initiates for some people of like, okay, we hear you, we feel it, oh God, we know it, but yet, oh man, I've done this 20, 30 years. I'm 1 year away from pension and AI's coming for my job. Like, what's your response to people who are having that initial fear, and how do you walk them through how to navigate that?
Well, so we have, in our organization, which you could probably see on the screen, TMIC, which stands for the Most Important Conversations, or TMIC Global. We have a program called Whole Life Architecture, which is a live interactive weekly program where people get to work together, create together, collaborate together. They get to connect to themselves as a creator of their own life. And we are helping them re-architect their life around who they are as an essence, as an authentic being, and to create a life by design so that you're no longer tolerating life by default. So when we talk about fear, one of the areas in our curriculum of whole life architecture is something that I call emotional sobriety, which is the ability to fully be with your emotions, to fully feel your emotions, to not repress or suppress them, and to learn how to be with the discomfort of them when we're talking about emotions that we would normally refer to as negative emotions. There's actually no such thing as negative or positive emotions. There's just emotions. How we label it is because of how it makes us feel. So emotions that don't feel good, we call them negative. They're not negative. They're actually trying to warn us. So what emotional sobriety teaches us is that our emotions are a guidance system. And most of us have been taught just through conditioning in our culture to repress our emotions, to suppress them, to ignore them. We live in a very left brain logic dominated society. And I want people to understand that logic is a perceptual filter through which we interpret and experience the world, but it isn't reality. It's a filter of that reality. And in a left brain logical dominating society, there's no place for emotions. Emotions are right brain. Emotions are on the side of creativity. I was listening to, actually, it's funny, I was listening to this interview just a couple of days ago with the front man. He was being interviewed by Dan Rather. You all remember him from, back when network news was like a main thing. And he was interviewing Paul Stanley, the lead singer of Kiss. Some of you might not even know who that band is, depending on your age, but Kiss was a big, very popular rock band. But he was interviewing Paul Stanley about his another side of himself, not as a rock star, but as a painter. And Paul Stanley said something I thought was so fascinating. He said, when I first started to paint, I realized that it was a place for me to express my emotions through the painting, that actually the painting itself was sort of a channel through which whatever I was feeling could be expressed, including what we would normally call negative emotions. It was a way for him to process his emotions, to be with his emotions, to express his emotions. And I thought that was really profound because we live in a society where that's just not okay. We've been conditioned to repress these emotions. So anyone who's feeling fear, my only advice is feel the fear. And I know that sounds almost like overly simplistic, but what else are you going to do? I mean, you're feeling fear and what we call negative emotions and emotional sobriety because there is something out of alignment. So whenever we experience any sort of negative emotion, that's our higher self saying, whatever you're experiencing in this moment is out of alignment with who you really are. Okay? And so if you're experiencing fear because of this moment of disruption where you're now going to have to become a human being again, even though you never really thought of yourself as not being a human being, we were all sort of born into this construct. It's because that fear is coming up to alert you to the fact that you have been living a life that's been out of alignment and integrity anyway. And so now you're about to step into the unknown, and that there can be fear that comes up. And there's nothing to do except just feel it, let it process, let it move through you, let it burn off. There's nothing to do about it. We want to do everything. We are a very fix-it culture, but we don't have to fix it. Feel it and allow it to move through you and allow it to transmute and transform you.
So good, man. What's I know the whole life architecture is obviously a big reason why I want to do the stream and let people know about that and the things you're doing with the most important conversations and TMIC, like just. But you and I both share this thought that we need more of us. We need more leaders.
Yeah.
I'm concerned about people not having the support that they need. I'm concerned that 100%. It's going to feel similar to the pandemic where people, it's going to be sudden. They're not going to know what to do. they're going to be way behind on the tools. And then because we're talking about livelihood, there's an additional sense of panic and worry and overwhelm and stress and fear. And in my experience, to create from a place of angst and to create with the pressure to provide in a short amount of time frame, it makes it hard to create. So what's your take on like dealing with the people that are going to get slapped and urgent? Like if they watch this 6 months from now and they didn't prepare and they didn't get their ducks in a row and they've got, let's just say 30 days to become a human being and figure out how the hell am I going to now create my own living? What's some of those foundational practices that you would say to the person who's in that situation?
Yeah, all very important stuff that you're raising here, because I just want to frame this a little bit. For those of us who are already self-employed or entrepreneurs, we chose that path. We did not do it under duress. People who are moving from the 90% of the employee category and are not going to be able to just replace one job for another because of robotics and AI and all of these things, they're going to be under financial duress. And so the first bit of advice that I would give any of those people, and I would also give it for entrepreneurs as well, because just because you're an entrepreneur or a self-employed person doesn't mean that you can kind of coast through this phase. We all have to up our games as entrepreneurs, and we have to do it in two ways. Number one, we've got to lean into this moment, leveraging the tools that artificial intelligence is providing us, and take a look at our business and really think, am I prepared for, look at if 10% of the marketplace is self-employed and entrepreneurs, and the expectation by any of the consulting firms is that of the 90% who are employees, we're going to see 30 to 80% of them move into the entrepreneurial category. If you're an existing self-employed person or an entrepreneur, your competition is about to skyrocket as people are having to figure out some way to make a living. Okay. Now you have the added advantage that you may have been doing it for a while and you may know some things and have learned some things and you've got a bit of a foundation under you. But never underestimate the power of desperate individuals to figure things out quick and to do it more nimbly and more creatively and more effectively than you may have been doing it as you've been sort of coasting along because you've been in an only 10% competitive landscape. So that's one thing. That's for the entrepreneurs. For the people who are employees and are facing this duress or the potential of duress, and I would say even if you're looking at your life and you're saying, well, there's the potential I might be laid off in 6 months or a year. Now is the time to connect to a community. Now is the time to start to learn things. Now is the time to work on yourself. Now is the time to educate yourself about what does it mean to be an entrepreneur? What does it mean to be a self-employed person? And know that you don't have to do it alone, that you actually will not succeed alone. One thing that the grand bargain of sort of the post-Second World War era created was this mythology that all of us are self-made men or women, that we can do it on their own, that we can exist in a silo. And it was created because of the system of credit and the safety of security that our employee jobs provided. Listen, when you're guaranteed an income and you're allowed to live as though that income is 10x what it is, you can start to get delusions of grandeur about yourself. Like, I don't need anybody. Look at me. I'm doing this on my own. I got my own house. I got 5 TVs in the house. I got my own car, 2 cars maybe. Like, I'm fine, right? But what none of these people are realizing is that delusion of grandeur of I can do this on my own is sitting on a house of cards that's about to be pulled out from under us. I mean, they're talking right now about the 50-year mortgage. They're talking right now about the average car, I think, in the United States just last month. The average price of a car, I think it hit something like $40,000 as an average. And there was this article, I think it might have been in the Atlantic or one of those magazines saying, be prepared to never own anything ever again. They're talking about right now 60% of Americans own homes, 40% are renters. They're talking about the inverse of that by 2050, where 30% of Americans will own homes and 70% will be renters. The reason is because that system of credit and the guaranteed income that provided for this system to thrive and exist is now being completely disrupted. So we have to learn how to be creators of our own life, but we don't have to do it alone. So this whole mythology that I'm a self-made man or woman and I don't need anyone, which incidentally, by the way, since 2005, has been exacerbated by social media. Everyone's sort of existing in their own little bubble, and we see the tribalization, but the negative tribalization of how people are in these tiny little cliques and are not socializing or not connecting in person anymore. And if they are online, it's through this sort of filter of all of this sort of mythological, projection of, it's like this old saying, I hope your life is truly as good as it looks like on Facebook or Instagram, right? I mean, this is the framework that we've been living in now for 15 years. So the hyper individualism that has come with this model is going to come crashing down. So my advice to people who are employees and entrepreneurs, you need to connect into a community where you're growing, where you're supporting one another, where you are learning from one another. Everyone needs to be a mentor and a mentee in your life. If you are not mentoring someone and are not being mentored by someone, you're setting yourself up for massive failure, if not a lot of hardship at the very least. Oh, I got you muted. You're mute.
I said, why? If somebody, why is it? You said if you're not being a mentor and a mentee,
yeah,
why is that specifically such an important dynamic from your perspective?
Because it goes to the heart of the fact that we all need each other. Human beings are by nature, when we're talking about human beingness, not human doingness, human beings are by nature social. We're social, we're a social creature, a social animal. We learn from each other, and we are each other's support system. And since 1945, the support system has been artificially fabricated in terms of how we set up our society, in terms of government, in terms of social networks and social systems. I'm not talking about social networks like social media, but I'm talking about the infrastructure to manage life. A lot of that infrastructure is under enormous pressure. We know what's going on with healthcare right now. We know what's going on with education and how it's underfunded, and healthcare. We have the most expensive healthcare in the world and some of the worst outcomes in the world. I mean, this is upside down. People need to start learning how to take care of themselves. They need to start learning how to become healthy again, how to manage their nervous system. This is all in addition to the entrepreneurial business stuff. Look, if you're an employee going into into self-employment or entrepreneurialism, you don't have any, unless you've done the work, which very few people will have statistically, you don't have any sense of what you're about to step into and the havoc it will wreak on your nervous system. And if you don't have nervous system support systems and nervous system tools and practices, this is what I'm talking about, the mental health crisis that's coming. It's the likes of which we are unprepared for. We don't have enough coaches, counselors, therapists, psychologists to meet the tsunami that's coming. Because I'll say it again, when a human doing loses their identity for what they do and have never contemplated who they are as a being, you have total mental health breakdown. So if you're not part of a community, how do you expect to weather that storm? And if you're not mentoring and being mentored, how do you expect to weather that storm?
That's good. I love everything you said. I'm still digging. I'm looking for something there, because there's something in the way that you're perceiving the role of a mentor and a mentee and what that does for us in this, power to create, that I still want to connect for me and for anyone else who thinks like me. What happens in that dynamic that's different in a mentor-mentee relationship than like a business partnership or other types of relationships that are also important?
Oh, well, what happens in a true mentor-mentee situation is I am authentically connecting to and caring for who you are as a being. It is not transactional. I am, when I'm a mentor to you, I am holding space. I am creating a container to be a stand for your success. And when I'm doing that for someone else, they're getting that benefit as well. And when someone is doing it for me. So this is the power of community, true community, not just the type of networking, transactional stuff that we're used to seeing. That is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about connecting to a community that is where the individuals are both mentors and mentees for you, where they are holding space, they are a container, they are as committed to your success as you are for yours. I mean, that's the kind of community I'm talking about, and it's the only way that we're going to thrive through this. Look, there's always going to be the exceptions, the people who A, get lucky, or B, know the right person to open a door for them where they can still, basically believe that they did it themselves, where they can still believe that they don't need that, but we know no man is an island unto himself, right? I mean, this is old wisdom. And it's only been in the last, 80 or so years that we have come to believe this narrative. And so when you ask, well, why mentor-mentee? Because when listen, go biblical again. I am my brother's keeper. I mean, this is where it all comes down to this. And so these are things that we have kind of tossed aside. They're nice to have. They're memes on social media. You might hear them in church or temple or synagogue, once a week, but we're not living by it anymore. And so the invitation and the encouragement is to start living by these things. And why a mentor-mentee relationship matters so much is because when my mentor is a stand for my thriving, is a stand for my success, and I am a stand for theirs, that is a source of power that most of us have probably never actually really experienced, because we haven't had to. We've had this support system of government and this economic house of cards that has given us a sense of we don't need each other in that way. So we can be transactional, but we can't be transactional going forward.
Yeah, no, that's good. What I'm hearing, and first of all, that's all great. And also what I'm hearing from that is this mentor-mentee, because of the purity of the relationship, it creates a purity of the view, right? Whereas when you got some of these other kind of frames, like I'm your paid coach, or totally. I'm your friend and I can't necessarily speak into you like that, or we're too familiar to see the divine identity, like what the mentor-mentee relationship does, it creates a purity around the person and the filter, so that it becomes a clear reflection for the individuals navigating those dynamics. That's kind of my interpretation of what's at the crux of that specific mentor-mentee relationship that doesn't exist outside of a dynamic like that.
Yeah. Well, and just to put it another way, we only know ourselves through another. It is being witnessed and being seen that we come to know ourselves, which is why there's the necessity of deep human relationship, which for the last 80 years, at least institutionally speaking, as a society, has been very transactional.
Can you give an example of how someone maybe in your life helped you to see you?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I have a mentor that goes back 20 so years. He's an older gentleman, 86 years old. And I met him in Nashville, Tennessee, and we just ran into each other at a restaurant, and we ended up shutting the restaurant down. That's how we became friends. It was like one of those moments where it was kind of like how you and I met in a way. You meet someone and there's this sort of click, right? But he was, he's 86. So, I mean, he's like 35, 36 years older than me. And he saw the talent in me. He saw the intelligence in me. He saw the creativity in me. And in his own way, gave me, just by holding space and being in relationship with me, but doing it in a way where he was challenging me, he gave me permission to actually share my voice, share my talents in a way that I hadn't been doing prior to that. You know, prior to my meeting him, and it wasn't instantaneous, this was something that sort of happened over years, but prior to meeting him, you know, I was very, how should I put it, self-conscious, always wanting to make sure that what I was saying was the right thing, the acceptable thing, the thing that would score me points, you know, so I could get something. So my whole life up to that point, and I mean, this is going back 20 years now, but my whole life up to that point was very much like a lot of us in terms of how we were taught, which was I always had an ulterior motive for my engagement with someone. It didn't come from a pure place of actually caring for them as a human being, but it was what could I get from them, right? Just go to any conference, you know, where people are exchanging business cards and phone numbers and, you know, despite what a lot of and I used to put on conferences, I used to produce them, very large ones for, you know, the transformational and the self-help industry. And you go to a lot of these conferences, and despite what they'll say, that they actually want to help one another, and that does happen, but most of them aren't like that. Most of them, it's you know, what can I get from you? And what he did for me, what my mentor did for me, is he wasn't trying to get something from me. He didn't need anything from me. He just saw my talents, you know, intellectual, communication, etc., and he encouraged me to basically show up as that.
Let's go. Let's hit a couple of these before we got to log off here. The coaching coaches versus coaching coaches thing, right? Like if you could cover the difference between what your perspective is between a mentor and a coach, and how. And maybe this won't happen, but I've even seen this happen a little bit in our community that we're curating that, you know, we want to invite you to come out to. Is, you know, there's, I don't know, 60% of the group is life coaches, some type of coach, right? Life, health, wealth, or relationships. And yes, they find clients there, but there's also like, well, is everybody just a coach who coaches a coach that's being coached by a coach? Is that the future of entrepreneurship? Is that everyone's going to have the sort of their coaching expertise as it relates to their identity or whatever their unique specialty is? What do we do about the governance in the coaching industry is maybe kind of more so what I'm looking to dive into. Like, how do we handle who's legit, who's not, what's verifiable, what's not, and how to know when I need a coach and when I need a mentor?
There's a bunch of big topics there. First of all, I'm not going to speak from the place of all coaches are like X, because they vary, you know, massively. My experience of coaching generally, as distinct from mentoring, is that coaches provide advice. Okay. Mentoring holds space. It doesn't provide advice. Mentoring asks questions. Mentoring encourages the person that's being mentored to be the creator of their own path, and through very skilled and insightful questions, they get insights and opening, and then they will choose what path they're going to take. Versus what I've experienced in coaching is that many coaches are providing advice and direction based on best practices, based on certain models, based on certain formulas. And this is very typical of human beings, right? We always want to know. So this is the consumption model versus the creation model, if I can frame it that way. Mentors are firmly sitting inside of the creativity model or creation model, meaning that they hold space and invite the person they're mentoring to self-create their own path through very thoughtful questions. And coaches, generally speaking, the way I've experienced them, come from the consumptive model, which is there's an answer out there, there's a model out there that I can follow. What is it? Help me know what it is so I can just rinse, you know, it's like shampoo, you know, rinse and repeat, right? So that's how I view the distinction. And again, there will be some coaches probably listening who say, oh no, well, I guess I'm more of a mentor. Okay, then maybe you're a mentor, or maybe you've just been you. But I think we can start to distinguish this a little bit, because I firmly see mentors as being firmly in the world of helping people become creators of their life, and coaches helping people consume answers for how they should do certain things in life or business.
Yep. Love it. As we start to land the plane here, I think it's best to enter into this conversation around TMIC and just partnerships. Obviously, we're talking about how do we collab, how do we partner, how do we synergize our audiences. And I think it would be so valuable for the audience to just hear from you, like, what's your philosophy on partnerships and collaborations? Why are they important, and how can people successfully navigate them?
Yeah. So I would say that at the heart of any partnership is a servant's heart, is the desire to, kind of like I was saying a few minutes ago, the desire to be able to, the desire and the ability to be able to show up and hold space and truly hold space for the success of that other individual and to be of service to them. One of the things I know you and I have been talking a lot about is how, even in the same way that individuals, that we have been all lulled into this errant belief that we can be an island unto ourselves and are successful simply because of ourselves and no one else. Communities operate in much the same way. Many communities are siloed and isolated from each other, right? Because why is it any surprise? The model by which individuals exist just gets transferred to groups of individuals that we call groups or communities. So if you're a siloed tribalist, meaning like, you have to fit in like this, otherwise you're not allowed.
God.
Right? Then it's going to be, then you're just going to have a community that's like that. And that's really kind of not the way I see community. So I think that communities need to start working together. What TMIC is doing is we're a community of communities model. So our intention is to basically create, like those books that used to exist when we were kids. I don't know if you ever read them, the Choose Your Own Adventure books, right? So it was like these books where you would go in and you would get to a certain point and then it would give you options. It was like, okay, if you want to go down this path of what happens, go to page 260. If you want the character to experience this, go to 134. And then you would just kind of navigate your way. Well, as I said, as the 90% of employees move to the 10% of the self-employee world, they're going to be looking for help. And also the 10% entrepreneurial and self-employed world, they're also going to be looking for assistance and help. So we need to start binding communities of communities together where someone could come in. If they come in through TMIC, they get to choose their own adventure. Maybe they don't want to work with me, but maybe they don't like, we only have a couple programs. We don't cover everything. And we have a certain thing that we're focused on. Maybe you come in through TMIC and you're like, yeah, that's nice, but hey, I really like what Darryll's doing over here. I want to go work with Darryll. Fine, you go work with Darryll, right? But you don't have to just come into our community and say, oh, it's not for me, and then be left wondering, well, where should I go? Where can I go? Yes. Where are there other communities that share values with this community? I like what TMIC stands for, but I'm not really interested in what they're providing. So where else can I find other communities that share values with TMIC, but provide me what I'm looking for? If we don't start binding together, you call it cross-pollination. If we don't start doing that, then we're really not being of service to the world when this mental health crisis is bearing down on us. So we need to start binding together and working together. So I know we're running out of time, so I just wanted to kind of make sure that was captured. I don't know if I answered all of your questions, though.
No, that's perfect, actually. I think it's a great way to because you ended on the cross-pollination. For me, that's what happens when communities of communities come together. And I remember at our event, it was like, I was saying that, and then people kind of came, they were hesitant, they're like, oh, okay, because we give them all their communities discount codes, but I don't think they actually, because you know how that is. you invite community leaders, and sometimes I feel like people just want to recruit from your community because they know you've got a group of people. They're like, bring your people here so we can steal them, essentially. And it's
right.
Not the spirit of the deal, right? So to combat that, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna give you the microphone at my event and talk about your community, right? Because if we're not all growing, something's not working about the system. That's the purpose of it. There's more than enough to go around, that there's not this spirit of competition. There's actually the spirit of collaboration, so that we can more effectively serve everyone, because we understand that we're a collective consciousness, right? And so
absolutely.
Anyway, so very well said, man. I'll let you take the plane home. Obviously, we've got how people can connect with you on the screen, tmicglobal.com. You can hit him up on his social. If you got questions personally, I'm happy to make a connection. But anything that's just on your heart around anything that we've touched on this far, or even that we didn't get to yet, I'll just let you have a free reign at the end and say your thing, bro.
I mean, there's so much I could say, but if I were to just leave people with one message, it is to get proactive in this period of time right now. Don't sort of, the typical sort of response, people either freeze, or they run away, or, don't do the typical sort of response that we as humans have when we're afraid and when we're scared. But make sure you're proactive and connect in with a community and start to develop yourself. Like this should be a joy. This should be actually something that we want to do, to continue to evolve and to develop and to grow ourselves. And we know that we can only do that in relationship to others and together. So if the two things I would leave people with is get into a community where you're in service to someone and they're in service to you. They have a servant's heart, and get into a community where you are learning how to develop yourself and how to be more effective in this period of incredible uncertainty. Listen, we can watch the news, we can watch YouTube, we can scroll Instagram, and we can get sort of put to sleep by almost like we're witnessing a car crash with all of the change that's going on in our society. Or we can get creative and collaborative, and we can start proactively asserting ourselves and sharing ourselves and learning from each other and developing ourselves so that we can meet this moment with grace and power.
Love it, man. Woo. And speaking of events, man, make sure you guys come out to our next event on December 9th right here in Nashville, Tennessee. We're going to gather 100 plus entrepreneurs, creators, founders, some artists and musicians now that we're bringing in, a couple of guest performers to talk about our ability, our opportunity to create in 2026, but also to celebrate everything that we've accomplished this year. It's been a really hard year for some people and a really amazing year for others. And we just want to hold space in the same container for whether you had a hard year or whether you had the best year of your life, that you'll feel seen, heard, and celebrated in this community. So make sure you come out, type the word event if you want more information on that. And if you want to get connected to Chad, again, hit him up directly, visit tmicglobal.com. This is one of, I don't know, 3 to 5 communities that I'm really considering partnering with and collaborating with in 2026, which is a really big statement because there's lots of opportunity out there. So totally believe in what Chad's doing. Think you guys should connect with him. And Chad, thank you so much, man, for just impromptu stream, man. I love your heart, brother, and I appreciate how you show up in the world.
Appreciate it, Darryll. I share that in terms of you and our experience getting to know one another. It's been a joy and a true delight and pleasure.
Nice. Love it. Last minute shout outs, Trudy, Chan the Millionaire Barber, Jim Morris, my wife, the silent trainer, Alicia. Man, so good to see y'all and many, many more. Thank y'all for tuning in. Hashtag replay if you're watching the replay. And sorry for my glitches here. I'm in a different home office. Y'all know I just had a baby. So it wasn't as quiet as I thought I was going to be at my home. So I love y'all, and make sure you share this with other people. Follow Chad on YouTube too. He does these guided meditations that I've been tapping into every single day. Really helpful with the neuroplasticity of your brain, and just to start your day off with that reminder that you're here to create. So love you guys. Until next time, keep seeding greatness. Peace.